March 25th, 1983. In just under 2 seconds of frozen silence, Michael Jackson seized a live audience and rewired the rules of performance psychology forever. His entrances didn't signal a show. They weaponized anticipation, unleashing emotional chaos before anyone moved. But how did one man's stillness trigger such spectacular hysteria, and why has no one matched it since? The answer begins here. On March 25th, 1983, the Jackson 5 medley ends. Michael stands alone under a single spotlight, a sequined jacket catching the glare, hat in hand, face set in a wide grin. For just under 2 seconds, he remains completely still. The audience, already on edge, holds its breath. No music cues, no movement, only the sound of 33 million television viewers and a live crowd waiting for something to happen. Broadcast timecode analysis pinpoints the duration, less than 2 seconds of absolute stillness, but in that interval the atmosphere thickens. The crowd noise, already a dull roar, spikes as the silence stretches. Jackson's body language is surgical, shoulders squared, chin high, gaze fixed. The moment is not a pause but a calculated freeze. Then, with mechanical precision, he tips his head. The first movement lands like a percussion hit. A single thrust, a flick of the hat. The tension snaps, and the crowd erupts. Decibel levels on the live broadcast surge, overwhelming the audio mix. This is not improvisation. Every frame, every micro movement has been rehearsed and timed. The stillness is engineered, not incidental. Jackson's physical control in these moments is total. He does not fidget, does not scan the audience, does not acknowledge the chaos building around him. The pose is a command. Only when he decides does the performance begin. The crowd's reaction is instantaneous, a direct response to a signal so precise it could be measured in frames. The entrance is not a transition. It is a test of will, his against theirs, and he never blinks first. A Michael Jackson entrance did more than ignite a crowd. It transformed the audience into an instrument. The moment his first movement landed, the soundscape shifted from controlled silence to something raw and uncontainable. Screams did not just accompany the music, they became the music's opening notes. In stadiums packed with tens of thousands, a single outburst could ripple outward, triggering a chain reaction that swept through the entire arena. This was not coincidence. Crowd psychologists call it emotional contagion, the way one person's excitement infects everyone nearby until the group's energy feeds on itself. But with Jackson, the effect reached another level. Fans lost their sense of individuality, swept up in the overwhelming presence on stage. De-individuation set in. People who might never shout or cry in public found themselves screaming until they were hoarse, sometimes even fainting. The boundary between performer and audience blurred. Jackson's entrances did not just start the show, they set off sonic avalanches, turning the crowd's own voices into part of the performance. Every gasp, shriek, and surge of applause became a layer in the music, woven in with the beat. The phenomenon scaled effortlessly. Whether it was 70,000 in a stadium or millions watching at home, the feedback loop of anticipation and release amplified itself. Jackson understood this instinctively. He rehearsed not just for choreography, but for the moment when the audience would become his orchestra, a living, breathing instrument tuned to the frequency of his silence and the shock of his arrival. January 31st, 1993. The Rose Bowl Stadium is packed, 98,000 people press shoulder to shoulder, and more than 100 million are watching at home. The lights drop. On the jumbotrons, Michael Jackson appears at opposite ends of the field, arms folded, staring down the camera. Pyrotechnics explode, smoke billows, and then, center stage, Jackson rises from a hidden lift. He stands completely still. Not a step, not a wave, not a word. The crowd's roar surges, but Jackson holds his ground, eyes fixed, body locked in place. For nearly 2 minutes, the world waits. The only sound is the audience, their cheers swelling and falling, filling the silence that Jackson refuses to break. Behind the scenes, production director Don Mischer and his team watch the clock. Every second of stillness is counted, every camera angle locked. There is no music, no voiceover, no cutaway. just the raw sound of 70,000 fans pushing against the edge of frenzy, broadcast unfiltered to millions. The audio mix is engineered to keep the crowd's noise front and center, letting their anticipation become the soundtrack. Crew members on headsets hold their cues, waiting for Jackson's signal, knowing that the entire show hangs on his timing. Finally, Jackson moves. A single gesture, arms thrown wide, sunglasses removed, and the crowd detonates. The opening beat of jam hits, lights flare, and the stadium erupts. This was not just a halftime show. It was a masterclass in suspense, executed with the precision of a military operation. Jackson proved that he could command not just a stadium, but the attention of a global audience, using nothing but silence and the promise of movement. Dangerous tour entrances followed a protocol so exact it could be mapped in seconds and counts. Each show began with a crew on headset, waiting for a chain of cues rehearsed until they were second nature. The house lights dropped. A low-frequency rumble signaled the start, but no one moved until the trap lift operator received a silent signal from stage left. Hydraulic gears engaged beneath the stage, pushing the platform upward through a cloud of programmed smoke. Jackson's body would appear, upright, fists clenched, gaze fixed beyond the first row. For nearly 2 minutes, he would not move. The audience, already primed by the swelling music and blackout, erupted into waves of screams that only grew louder the longer he held still. Kenny Ortega, the tour's choreographer and director, described the process as a sequence of holds and detonations. Crew members learned to treat the entrance as a live explosive, timing every effect to Jackson's stillness. The standard was a 32-count hold, though in practice, Jackson adjusted the length by reading the intensity of the crowd. Smoke, lighting, and the trap lift were all triggered by a tightly controlled cue chain. No improvisation was allowed. Ortega explained, "When Michael stopped moving, everything else stopped too. The show waited for him, not the other way around." This choreography of machinery and human anticipation meant that every entrance unfolded with the same mechanical precision in stadiums from Bucharest to Wembley. The audience's reaction was not a variable, but a predictable outcome engineered by the team. By the end of the Dangerous Tour's 69 shows, both crew and crowd had been conditioned. Stillness signaled the storm. Each element, trap lift, smoke, light, silence, was a weapon in Jackson's arsenal, calibrated to guarantee that the first movement would always set off a chain reaction of hysteria. By the time the History World Tour launched in 1996, Michael Jackson's entrances were no longer just moments. They were industry benchmarks. The opening tableau became a masterclass in engineered spectacle. Jackson would rise from a stage lift through a wall of smoke, his body locked in a military stance, his face unreadable. For over 2 minutes, he remained unmoving as stadiums of 90,000 waited, breathless. Production teams across the live music world took notice. Touring designers began to adopt the language of apparition staging, the art of making a performer appear as if conjured from thin air. The history lift-driven reveal, paired with protracted stillness, became a template for high-impact entrances. Within a few years, major tours by other artists incorporated lift platforms, smoke, and engineered silence. But the original vocabulary belonged to Jackson. His approach did not just influence choreography, it rewrote the technical playbook for how to command an audience before the first note played. Replicating the surrender of a Michael Jackson audience is nearly impossible in today's world. The rise of smartphones means every moment is filtered through a screen, fragmenting attention that once focused like a laser on the stage. In the 1980s and the 1990s, a stadium could become a single organism, its energy building unbroken. Now the glow of devices scatters that unity. Safety regulations have also tightened. Stadiums and promoters enforce strict controls to prevent crowd surges, limiting the very intensity Jackson once harnessed. Producers today face a new challenge. Audiences expect constant stimulation, and any pause risks being interpreted as a technical glitch, not a calculated move. The environment that allowed Jackson's entrances to overwhelm is gone, replaced by a culture that rarely allows for silence, collective suspense, or the kind of engineered anticipation that once left tens of thousands breathless. Today, no artist triggers mass hysteria with pure anticipation the way Jackson engineered it from the stage's edge. In an era of endless spectacle, his mastery of silence and timing remains unmatched, a reminder that real power is not always loud. Sometimes the world stops for a single, motionless figure.